don't accept anything blindly, or because you think, if you don't accept it, it's fine, because Buddhism itself is full of contradictions. Yeah, because it depends from which side you are looking at, and you cannot find something that is just that. Okay, so the book or the text is by Shantideva. He was a prince, and but before he became the king, he had a vision of Manjushri and of Tara, and giving him teachings, and he saw that worldly power, being a king, and all this with an unrealized mind is not such a good thing. So he decided to go in the wilderness and actually meditate on these teachings. He did come back, and he had a role in the government. I think he was a minister, and he tried to rule the country according to his principles, but they didn't accept it. Because the people of power, they not necessarily go along with somebody who is really concerned about everybody, and not just the people in the government. Yeah? So we can see it even now. Like, people like the Pope, who has wonderful views and wonderful ideas. He has a lot of oppositions from the people who want to hold on to their power. If you look at Obama also, his ideas, the way he wanted to do things, he didn't have enough support. So the same thing. So he said, okay, goodbye, I'm going again. He went to the monastery, he went to Nalanda, and he was never seen. He was always in his room. So he was called the tree activity monk. Like, he's eating, sleeping, and going to the toilet, shitting. So they were making fun of him because he was never in the teachings, he was never in the debates, one could never see which stage he is in, and all this. So then they thought, he's really lazy. So monks, nuns were doing this. So we're going to embarrass him. We will ask him to come and give a teaching. So they went and they said, please, can you come and give us a teaching? He says, yeah. Do you want me to teach on the text that already exists, or you want me to teach on the text that I compose? They said, of course, please teach us on your text. And they thought that he would be totally useless. In order to embarrass him even more, they built a very high throne with no stairs. And all of a sudden he was sitting on that throne. They didn't know how he got up there. So that showed, the more you have realizations, the more you're not bound by matter anymore. That's also. Because what we think is solid, I don't know if any of you is a scientist, is like, how many? 99.99999% space. Yeah. A scientist said, I don't know if it's true, I'm just repeating it, but they said, if we only take the atoms of all human beings without the space, it would fit into a bottle. So what we think is really solid, if you study these things like atoms and neurons and quarks and I don't know what, then we start to see, it appears it's very solid, but it's not. Yeah? You start to go on a more subtle level. Anyway, so he was sitting on that throne, and he started reciting this text without nothing written. He recited it from the heart, and when you see the text, it's very poetic. It's very structured. If you know Buddhism, this text is very structured. If you don't know Buddhism, then you don't see the structure. Why it is like that. It's psychologically built up in a really, really, really good way, skillful way, because he works a lot with fear and shame to get us going. But always, the verses afterwards, always reminding ourselves of our Buddha nature. So he works with what we call negative states of mind in a kind of helpful way to encourage us to get this going, because fear can be a good motivation. You see, I love free fall, I love heights, but the fear of crashing on the ground prevented me from jumping off the cliff. But that's a good fear. The fear of not going into an area where it's really dangerous to go at night, or dressed like this because they don't like Buddhists or whatever, prevents me to go there or put on different clothes and, put on a hat. So why would I provoke people to attack me if I see they don't like me? This is the same thing when I said, why would I provoke people by putting statues if they don't like it? You see, all these things, they are here to support our practice. These things that we put. If they create a hindrance, well then, and you don't need them. You do not need them, but it can help you practice by constantly seeing the Buddhas and nurturing our potential to be totally compassionate and loving. So that's why, yeah. Okay, so he started teaching on this text, and everybody went out. Wow. Yeah. Why? Because they were all monks and nuns, so they had all studied, so they could see how skillful the text was. They could see how helpful this text is for their practice, because it's a practice manual. Yeah. Once you know the basis of Buddhism, then this becomes very valuable. If you don't know the basis of Buddhism, I really doubt. But still. So then, in the 9th chapter, when there is in the, I think it's verse 34, there is a sentence where he said, once you have understood that there is no unity, but also no non-unity, then you are liberated. Then he started levitating and he disappeared. Yeah, for us it sounds like, what? But yeah. So he disappeared, and some people could still hear, and then he never came back, and he left a message where he only composed 3 texts. The Sutra Samachaya, the Bodhisattva Samachaya, and then this Bodhicharya. This is the most simple one. The others are more for monks and nuns, like really strict rules, discipline. So he said where he had hidden them, and then he just disappeared. He said that he went to South India somewhere, to the forest again. And so that's Shantideva. And why has he become so famous? Not because he disappeared in the sky. He became so famous and so loved and so well practiced because of his text, not because of flying on the throne, flying in the sky. Okay? So like that. Okay, so the first chapter, as I said, I'm not going into it again because what time is the break? 10:30. Okay, we still have 20 minutes. That's fine. So the first chapter talks about the benefits of bodhicitta. But again, and I'm really sorry for people who are here for the first time. Once you know what bodhicitta is, once you know how to develop it, once you have understood how difficult it is to put others' happiness before yours and not to follow the ego every time, once you have understood all that, but still you want to practice it, in order for us to keep going and to have the courage, we need to know the benefits. Okay. If you have to spend a lot of money for something, how do you start thinking so that you can spend or that you will spend the money? Yeah. This is how we work. He knows how human minds work. If we don't see the benefit of spending all that money, you don't see the benefit of paying all your taxes. Do you ever go through the streets at night and think like, wow, the street has light because of my taxes? Do you ever see or hear the garbage people come in and think, wow, the garbage is taken away because of my taxes? Do you ever see kids go to school and think, wow, these kids can go to school because of my taxes? Do you ever do that? I ever does. Very good. So it's not for you. You are too advanced for us.
No, but sometimes I think that my taxes, that I pay the taxes.
Do we also think it when the tax bill comes and you think is very high?
Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. That's a perfect way of thinking, because then there's no suffering.
But it is going to pay tax also for the army.
Yeah, that is increasing your suffering. But the army is also protecting you, I have to say.
Yes.
Don't just think army is just bad. I mean, Israel is what it is now, Your life is what it is, and I'm not liquid or whatever, but you have to be realistic. It's because your army is very good, and they're very well trained. So a very well trained army and a good army costs a lot of money. Okay? But also the army is doing a lot of damage, to look at the other things. So, you know, with spiritual practice, you learn how to think. So that's something that you have to do anyway. You have to pay taxes. It becomes less suffering, for example. To learn how to think in a way to see what brings happiness, what brings suffering. Yeah? Because again, we cannot separate these two. You are right. Taxes are also used for things that are totally useless. Squandered in an incredible way, you know. Like when I see in Switzerland, for example, that people have to fight to put their son who is mentally handicapped to get support, to put him into an institution, and they say, no, you know, we're not going to pay. And then when I see you know, sometimes cultural things also, I think, why do we have to pay so much for this statue standing there? Yeah? So we have to see that both ways, but it's like if I only look, this one is not standing alone, and this one is not standing alone. They're going together. Yeah? So like this. So, but we do think like this. So, you know, so other things we spend money, we don't have to spend the money, but we do. So like, for example, going on holiday, it's very far away, and, you know, so the benefits would be, well, it's a very beautiful country, blah, blah, and this and that. And the disadvantage is, well, you know, CO2 and flying and blah, blah, and all this. So, slowly, then we start, maybe we don't. You see, even you go to the most wonderful place, if you go with a rotten mind, you will not enjoy the space. If the person that if your neighbor that you dislike, lo and behold, has booked the same trip, and you're not even in the same room, but he's in the same hotel, your vacation, even the most beautiful place in the world, is finished. Yeah. So with your spiritual practice, you know, it's so good for the environment. No CO2 emissions. You can meditate anywhere. You know, you don't even need a cushion. You need something that is a little bit soft to sit on. You become less and less needy for outside things and pleasures and all this. It's not so good for the economy. That is true, because you will buy much less things. But you will be a better member of society also, because people will like you, people will be inspired by you, and you will be happier, you will be less needy. Yeah? So, I'm not saying you should go on a holiday and fly, but just think about it. When we start to complain about climate change. I know, I also fly to Israel. It's the only place I fly to. All the rest, I'm in Europe, I always take the train. Even it's more expensive. This is the stupid thing about the whole thing. But then I can afford it. So, you know, again, if I can afford a train ticket, which is more expensive than the plane, I buy a train ticket. For me, there's no reason to say no because it's cheaper if I can afford the train ticket. I mean, for me, this is not a valid reason. If I say, okay, if I have to pay for the train ticket, I can't go, then I'll fly. If I could not go, but I don't even pay myself the train ticket. It's other people, I mean, it comes out of the Dharma, but still, you know, but this is the arguments that we have, you know. First, I have to lower the train prices, then I will take the train. Well, here in Israel, you can't argue like this because you have very, very low train prices. Probably one of the lowest in the world. And especially for senior citizens, I mean, it's amazing. And they don't go up. The prices for a train in Switzerland goes up, and I pay the same as somebody 20 years old. There's no senior citizen prices. I can pay a half-tax card. I can buy it, but I need to buy it, and everybody has it. So that's what I mean. Yeah. So, but when you spend money for yourself, then in order to that the spending is not too painful, you think about the benefits. So he talks about the benefits. This is the best thing that you can do. This is the most noble thing that you can do, because you want to be noble. I mean, not noble in aristocracy, but noble in mind, don't we? We want to be free from anger and free from jealousy and free from depression and all this. A noble mind. What is a noble mind? Someone help me a bit here. I'm not going to sleep. What would you call a noble mind?
Calm.
Huh?
Calm.
Calm. Okay.
Patient.
Patient. Compassionate.
Altruist.
Huh?
Altruist.
Altruistic. Huh?
Focus.
Focused.
Good observer.
Huh?
Good observer.
Good.
Observer. To observe.
A good observer. I am observing, Ari, that I think you're damaging your body if you keep lying like this. No, at least put a pillow under your neck, because this is terrible. If I would be a physiotherapist, I'd have my hair standing there. If I see you lying so cramped there, it's not good. Be careful, because otherwise you get pain. Okay, so I was observing that. You actually brought me to the point by saying good observer. What else?
Playable.
Huh?
Flexible. Playable.
Flexible, joyful, open, spacious, funny, humorous. This is a human. This is a noble mind. So do we want to have it? We have to practice these things. We can't buy it. Good thing that we can't buy this yet, because otherwise, again, we don't even go to the beach. So here, because everybody can have these methods. Everybody can make or should. You have to set priorities, so you need to make some time for this. Like the course is very small this time. Why? Because it's before New Year. It's difficult for people to come, so then you need to know also very often in your spiritual practice, if you want to make progress, because if you're not making progress, also it's no fun, then you drop the whole thing. I mean, if you don't feel anything changing, why would you torture yourself? Because the practice itself is not so much fun. Yeah? But then if with all this effort, then there is no result, then why would you continue? Then you go back to just worldly pleasures and where you have an immediate result. You feel good while you eat your ice cream or you go to the beach or whatever. So you need to make space, you need to set priorities, because the more you practice, of course, the more result you have. It's like with anything else. You want to play the piano, if you only learn like once a year, you sit there and then you after 10 years you go, I still don't know how to play the piano again. People would think you're stupid. People come to me, and say, my practice is not working. And then I say, well, what is your practice? It's like, we expect when we hear it and we understand it up here, we accept this to work. It doesn't. You have to apply it again and again and again and again, because we have like very strong habits. So this is the best thing you can do. And then he kind of talks in the first chapter also about analogies. Like this is like medicine that cures all sickness, like because then all the karma, you're not creating karma anymore. So again, you need to know how karma works in order to understand this and all of this like that. And he also says it's not like all the effort is not like a plantain tree, or like a banana tree, for example. A banana tree brings this once, then finish. So, when we go for pleasure and all this, you have pleasure while you're consuming it, then finish. Sometimes we try to bring back memories about things, like this is why we make all these photographs. So then we think looking at the photograph will bring the same sensation that when we were there. Does it?
No.
Do we still keep doing that?
Yes.
What does it produce when we look at the photographs? If we're really mindful and we really look inside.
Grief.
Huh?
Grief.
Yearning. To go there again. To get the feeling again. A pull. I I need to go there again. This is what we're doing. We're kind of scratching the wound. You know, our wound of, I want happiness, I want to be well, I want to be spacious, I want to have this noble mind. Yeah?
More.
That wound is always there.
I need more.
We do need more, it's true. I also want more happiness. But then it's like, instead of letting the wound of wrong views heal, we scratch it. So it's itching all the time. So when you itch and you scratch, it's very pleasant. It's very pleasant. When we go and consume these things, it's very pleasant. But what does it do to the wound? Does it make it heal? No, it opens it up again and again and again and again. So our desire for things become more and more and more exclusive. Our satisfaction and gratitude becomes less and less and less and less. Because the happiness is not out there, the happiness is in your mind state. So also, you see this, the first moment, this is from science, the first moment of experiencing something, this is the best one, and it will never come back. Why? Why? Why is it the best one?
Genuine? Because it is.
It's a beginner mind.
Huh?
A beginner mind.
Yeah? Why?
It's different. It's different. Something new.
No self-expectations.
Why? Why don't you have expectations?
Because you're coming free.
Because you have nothing to compare it with. Then it's good enough. The moment we start to compare, then we have already dualistic minds again. Not good enough. Yeah? When there's nothing to compare it with, it's good enough. But we don't want good enough. We want more. So then, because that sensation from experiencing that was so good, then we want the sensation. We don't want the object or the person. We want the sensation. But we will never get it again because we'll compare it with the first moment and it will never be like this again. Yeah? But as you say, we can have a beginner's mind by training good enough. This is not the same object. It's not the same person. It is good enough. Yeah? So like this. So he says all the worldly efforts that we're making are like a banana tree. It brings some fruit, that's true, but then the tree is dead and it doesn't, it doesn't continue. Whereas you generate bodhicitta, that you carry with you until full enlightenment. Or sometimes they also say it's like putting, when we do the dedications, it's like putting a drop of water into the ocean. As long as the ocean exists, that drop of water exists. But if you put the drop alone here, it will evaporate. Yeah? So all the things we do for what is called contaminated happiness or worldly happiness, which is pleasure, yeah? It's not bad. But it's only scratching the wound. And you see, this is why we have all these wonderful foods and cakes and cookies and this and that, and it's like, it's never good enough, so it needs to be better. Like whether the food is good or not, it has nothing to do with the food. It has to do whether you're hungry or not. When you are hungry, every food is good. Yeah? Every food is good when you're hungry. But since we're trying to find in the food a sensation, but when we're not hungry, you will not find the sensation. So making the food better is not changing anything. And it doesn't matter which food, vegan, vegetarian, meat, fish, it's the same for everything. It's the same for everything. And we don't understand it. Or we understand it here, but we don't understand it in our reaction. The Tibetans, I tell you, they say, what's wrong with you? Why do you need to have different food every day? Because for them, food is nourishment. I mean, the older Tibetans, the youngest now also, but if you go to a Tibetan restaurant, I mean, the menu is very small. Tupa, noodle soup, chow mein, fried noodles, momo. It's like ravioli. That's what they have. And people go there happily. People queue up for momos. Yeah? Also Westerners. But That's all they have. And then they say, why do you eat different food every day? Okay, so that is the first. That's the first chapter. Also, he talks in one verse. He talks. Bodhicitta is like when you are afraid, like having a great strong man beside you or behind you, who is protecting you. Bodhicitta really protects us not from outside enemy, but it protects us from our anger. Yeah? Because when we're talking about pleasures, when you are angry, there's nothing you can enjoy. Nothing. Okay. So then, also bodhicitta, if you go to sleep with bodhicitta, you kind of create positive energy even while sleeping. So practical. You go to bed with the thought, I'm going to sleep now because tomorrow I'll be rested. Then I have a chance not to harm others, because we get grumpy when we're tired, and we get very, very quickly frustrated and stressed when you are tired. So if you go to sleep with an attitude, I'm going to sleep now, so that tomorrow I can continue with the practice and not harming anybody like this, then you create merit while sleeping. Isn't that wonderful? This is knowing how to practice skillfully. We kind of burn ourselves out with the practice because we don't know how to practice. We don't understand that it just depends on your thoughts. It doesn't, and then the actions will follow. But we don't give ourselves the time to develop these thoughts, and then we want to act. And then, of course, we burn out because we don't have the right attitude. I've never seen a mother or a father being burned out because of the love and compassion for their children. They get burned out at work. You spend a lot of money on your children. You spend a lot of hours thinking about your children, playing with them, educating them, blah, blah, blah. Did you ever feel like you have a burnout? No. So where is the burnout coming from? Come on, say it. From your attitude. That for the children, there's love, there's openness, I want them to be happy. There's not enough interest to make your boss happy where you work. That's why you burn out in your workspace. Yeah. So bodhicitta is protecting us also from the anger. Okay, then the second chapter is about, because it's difficult to practice, is preparing the ground. So the second and the third chapter is especially about what is called the 7 limbs, although he puts more limbs in than just 7. And it's a way of, when we start next session, then we will go through the 7 limbs. It is a way of purifying negative karma and creating a lot of merit by developing, through sentences, very short sentences, by developing attitudes in our mind, mental states. And it's called the 7 limbs. So the first of these limbs that he has many, many verses on making beautiful offerings. I don't know those people who have studied the text. Do you remember the offerings that he's making? Things that he owns, things that he doesn't own. He sees beautiful bath houses, the most exquisite and beautiful things. He offers them with his mind. So we go like, what is that? It's learning how to give without stinginess, when we just visualize and offer it. And since the Buddha's minds are everywhere, they do receive it. So there you get a lot of, you can feel the joy that he has in offering this. And by the way, I also told you the story. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who was one of my masters, when he offers the food, it takes hours sometimes, because he offers it to all the Buddhas separately on behalf of all the sentient beings. So they were on a plane, and he was offering, like food came, and then the flight attendant came. She said, look, I'm sorry, I have to take it away, because we're landing. And the attendant of Rinpoche said, oh please, he hasn't even touched it yet. Can you maybe leave it for another 5 minutes or so? Rinpoche takes the tray, he gives it to the flight attendant, he says, no, it's okay, I already offered it. So he has the food to offer it to the Buddhas. We have it for eating. Then he also eats, I'm not saying he doesn't eat it, but just so to see the joy of offering. that we don't know, you know. I mean, we put things on the altar already by thinking, on Saturday we'll go there and then I can take it off.